Yo, what's going on, you guys? This is your boy RBG, aka The Random Black Gamer, bringing you another video on Transformers Movie 2024. Yeah, that's what we're going to be calling it until we get a live action movie. We already know that there's going to be a movie in 2024, that being Transformers 1, which is said to be a CG animated film done by Jos Coy, who directed Toy Story 4. And it's no secret that the Transformers live action franchise hasn't really been in the best state right now. If you ask me, it'll probably be a while until Hasbro and Paramount decide to drop another one, because as I've said time and time again, these movies cost a lot of money for them to produce, and they want to make sure it's money well spent. There have already been heavy criticisms in regards to the designs for these characters, with many fans wanting them to go back to the days of the bayformers, where they have a lot of detail. And in order for Paramount to bring you those highly detailed designs, then they're going to actually have to put some money into it. Depending on how this upcoming CG animated movie does, they might pivot in that direction if it's very successful, because it seems like every studio wants that Into the Spiderverse franchise, because they realize they don't have to go crazy on the budget, right? It could be pretty moderate. And I feel like there's a chance that fans may show up in droves to see this movie, since it's a breath of fresh air compared to all the live action stuff they've been getting. We just want to see something that's story driven and focuses its attention on the namesake of these movies, which is the Transformers. We don't need it to always take place on Earth and see these characters hiding amongst the humans. We want to see them on their original place of origin, which is Cybertron. Because a lot happened on that planet of Cybertron before the war, and we want to see these characters get fleshed out better. But anyways, we got to talk about this character which was featured in the title, and that is Megatron. In my last video, I talked about how this character was supposed to be in the Bumblebee movie, but was cut after early screenings. And I wasn't particularly sure why they decided to go that route. Like, it may have been because the character was oversaturated and kind of wore his welcome out in the previous continuity, but I felt like his inclusion would have been a necessary one, because apparently this was going to be a post-credit sequence where we saw him, where it was going to connect the dots between this film and the Bay films. But since Paramount and Hasbro are opting to go in a different direction and keep us guessing on where this film even takes place, they're going to continue to keep us in the dark until they've amassed that audience and brought all those fans back from the early 2000s. But would a post-credit scene really hurt things? Like, they could have built this guy up like the Thanos of this universe, where he's not always there, but there are occasionally things to remind us that he is there and that he is coming, and he's gonna wreck shop when it's time to do so. But nonetheless, even though he was cut from the film, it's still gonna add to that anxiousness that fans are gonna be hyping him up once he does actually appear. And it also doesn't hurt that the toy is already being produced. I talked about it briefly in my last video, but there weren't that many details to go off of other than this pic that was basically like a prototype. But now we have the official announcement that Megatron is getting a Studio Series Leader Class toy based on the concept art from the Bumblebee movie. And it comes with a hefty amount of details. Sam Smith, who is a talented designer and someone who works with Hasbro to make these figures come to life, actually gave a breakdown on everything that went into it. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a long read, but it's very interesting because it goes into details about the Bumblebee movie and what happened to Megatron. So I want to read this thing off. Sam said, and I quote, "I'm ecstatic to finally be able to share our leader scale concept Megatron. We officially came across this oddity while sifting through the CAD files from the Bumblebee movie and discovered a wonderful unused design for Megatron. Originally, the story was going to utilize Megatron being frozen in ice to help bridge the continuity gap to the Bayverse films, but the scene was eventually dropped and the design disappeared. Luckily for us, we thought it out and was thrilled to be a part of the team to help bring this figure to life." So as you guys heard, Sam has said that this right here was going to essentially bridge the continuity gap between the Bayverse films and Bumblebee, but the scene was ultimately dropped. And as I mentioned before, they did in fact include this scene in some early screenings for the movie, but they decided to cut it out of the final version. And this is basically another confirmation that Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast do take place in their own timeline, as opposed to just being in the Bay continuity. But make no mistake, these films were originally intended to be connected in some kind of way. If you guys remember, Jess Harnell, who had voiced Ironhide and Barricade up in the Bayverse, said he was going to be returning to voice Barricade up in this Bumblebee movie, but the character was nowhere to be found in the final product. And while Paramount didn't explicitly explain why they decided to go in a different direction as opposed to connecting these movies, I think it's safe to assume that it had something to do with the low ticket sales for Transformers The Last Night. Because you got to remember, right, Transformers The Last Night dropped in June of 2017. 2017, and Bumblebee started its principal photography the following month. So Paramount just did what they could at the last minute by cutting off that excess fat that used to be the Bay continuity just to make this thing feel like something different, even though there were a ton of other clues that led us to believe that they were still connected some kind of way. But as you see, we have a very G1 accurate version of Megatron on here. We have two examples. On the left, we have a render from Industrial Light and Magic, and what I love about this is that you can see the little icicles hanging off of him, which lets you know again that this was going to be that scene where we saw Megatron frozen in captivity up under Sector 7's lair. So if you're wondering why he's blue, it's because he's supposed to be in ice. And on the right, we have Megatron in his classic color patterns, and what you'll notice about this one is that this is the actual toy. The left one is the actual CAD model, while this one is the toy, and since that is the digital decode model, they had to take some creative liberties to make this thing plausible to transform right, because that's one thing about translating these models into actual figures. They had to do these things in order to make them move right, and they had to make it to where they can actually transform without making them look too different from their movie counterparts. And this model looks really good, man. Like, usually there's a distinctive difference between the actual CG renders from the movies compared to the figures that we get. While there are some figures that look very similar to their movie counterparts, there have been a lot of examples that don't do the characters any justice. Case in point, Transformers Age of Extinction and The Last Knight. Those, in my honest opinion, were the ugliest movie tie-in toys I have ever laid eyes on, and I think it's due largely in part to the fact that the models, when they were making them, that they didn't really have transforming in mind. To this day, Transformers Age of Extinction is the installment that has the least amount of on-screen transformations. So Takara, the Japanese company that usually takes those renders and tries to translate them into toys, they probably had a hard time transferring those humanoid-like figures to make them plausible to transform. And since we're on that topic, I want to talk about how they were able to do that with this Megatron figure, because apparently it didn't really have an alt mode, it just had this robot mode, so they weren't really thinking about transforming at all. Sam said, and I quote, "We got to work on a vehicle design for Megatron. Like the majority of the Bumblebee Cybertronian alt modes, we wanted to utilize details that were present on the bot form, but still prioritize maintaining the look that they had on screen without sacrificing them for fantasy alt modes. This strategy has had some mixed success, but each new figure feels like a welcome addition to the line. Knowing that the theatrical Megatron arrived on Earth as a Cybertronian jet and later a tank in the first two Bayverse films, I was split between what alt form was most appropriate, but aiming for a triple former seemed most appropriate. I enlisted SantaLux75 to conceptualize some vehicle looks for each of the modes, which we were able to take inspiration from for the final design. And if you ask me, guys, this dude would have fit perfectly in Bumblebee, because if you remember, one of the things that Travis Knight was going on and on about was how they were going to bring triple changers to the table. I remember him saying that this would be the first time they'll be introduced in the live action movies, and I came up with an argument that we had already had triple changers, because Megatron from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen was in fact a triple changer. He could transform into a tank and a Cybertronian jet. But many of you argued me down, saying that no, he wasn't a triple changer because it wasn't a full-fledged tank. And I would argue back and forth with you guys saying whatever. The fact of the matter is that my argument still remained intact because we still had triple changers prior to Bumblebee. Like, we had Drift, who was a helicopter and a Bugatti. But Sam here is pretty much validating my argument. And Revenge of the Fallen wouldn't be the last time he took on these forms, because if you guys remember, back in 2018, Hasbro dropped their Titans Return triple changer Voyager class Megatron. And I'm not sure of the year, but I think Takara Tomy dropped their version of a triple changer for Megatron called Super Megatron. So this figure tends on continuing that pattern where Megatron is a triple changer. And I know a lot of fans, particularly the G1s, aren't really happy about this because he's basically just Blitzwing with Megatron. That's all he is. He's Megatron with Blitzwing's gimmick. But Megatron just always struck me as this versatile character that just comes with the territory he's presented in. In some instances, such as the Combiner Wars series, we've seen this guy be a triple changer in the form of a gun and a tank. And I think he has the potential to transform into a gun in this version too, if they just write it in. But anyways, as you can see, his tank mode has a lot of detail put on it. Like, it looks like it would fit well within Bumblebee. I feel like he would have been a welcomed addition since, like I said earlier, Travis Knight made sure to highlight the triple changer aspect, which they did well with Shatter and Dropkick. The tank, it looks very sleek while also looking like a powerhouse. And also the jet, you know, it kind of puts me in the mind of his jet form from Transformers The Last Knight, as opposed to how it looked up in the first 3 Transformers movies. I like how you can alternate between where you want to put the cannon, which I also want to point out that I love how the cannon is oversized. You know, it's very reminiscent of how his G1 toy was. Like, the cannon is very huge, and if I'm not mistaken, this is something that they had to create themselves because it wasn't included in the concept art. Sam states that Megatron's cannon can be folded and stowed on the figure's back and can be positioned in a couple of different orientations between the 2 vehicle modes. So you can put the cannon on top of the vehicle modes, and when he's in his jet form, you can put it on the top or bottom, which I think the bottom is better because most jets always have the weapons at the bottom. So yeah, as I mentioned in my last video, I feel like this concept isn't going to go to waste. I think Paramount and Industrial Light and Magic will be utilizing this model for a future live action Transformers project. We just have to wait and see when it's time for them to bring the boy back out. But anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I just wanted to do a follow-up video to the previous one I did. What are your thoughts on it? Are you happy that this version of Megatron will finally be seeing the light of day outside of the concept? And do you think he will be utilized in a future installment? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video. You don't have to give me a thumbs up, you can give me a thumbs down. But if you really enjoyed this video, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on all the different social media outlets. Sharing is caring. But once again, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out. As a successful YouTube user, I often get questions asking what I use to get my videos tons of views. And the answer to that is TubeBuddy. This thing has helped me take my channel to the next level in ways I never imagined. It's a browser extension that helps new and experienced YouTubers grow fast and optimize their channels. I've been using this extension for years and it's constantly getting updated with new features, like the SEO tool that helps me come up with the perfect title, description, and tags to get more people to click on my videos. It even provides you with analytics beside your videos to see how much traffic your video is generating from various social media sites. The extension is absolutely free, but as a special offer, we're giving a 50% discount for channels that have less than 1,000 subscribers that purchase the Pro upgrade. All you have to do is enter in the code RisingStarBuddy. So if you're interested in starting a YouTube channel or taking your content to the next level, download the extension now. You can do so by clicking on this link that will be provided in the description of this video.